It's been a while since I've done a demo of solo play on the channel, and I've gotten a lot of requests since I posted my 10 reasons why ShadowDark is good for solo play video to give a little demo of solo play with ShadowDark. So I am going to do that here. I don't know how far into whatever story I develop I'm going to get, but I'm going to certainly start out by showing you how I approach the soloing of ShadowDark, and I'm going to stick mostly to SoloDark, but I'm also going to bring in Sandbox Generator. This is one of the tools mentioned in SoloDark itself, and I think I want to do something kind of overland. It's listed here as a possible wilderness tool, so I'm going to bring this in, and the only other thing I might use is some tools from my own Game Master's Guide. I'm not totally sure yet, but I'm really going to try to stick to what is offered in SoloDark itself with the Sandbox Generator and ShadowDark, and just walk you through, as I said, the approach, how you get started in a solo story using ShadowDark. So the first thing I will do in this particular case is create a character. I've talked about in my book and on the channel many times the reasons why beginning with the character isn't necessarily the easiest way into solo play, but for this video I am going to at least come up with a character concept to start with and take it from there. So in this particular case, I'm going to do the kind of rolling up of stuff off camera in terms of my actual stats, but we're going to talk about how I'm going to get the character from a conceptual standpoint. I'm going to go with a 0 level character. I'm only going to have one, so this is going to be like running a kind of funnel type situation, but just with the one character. So we'll see how that goes. And there's a very clear menu here of how you get this character. You roll your stats, which I'm going to do off camera, your choice of ancestry. That's what we're going to talk about here next. I think maybe I'll play a halfling. I can be invisible for 3 rounds once a day. I can become stealthy. Either that or a dwarf. I think I'm going to be a dwarf. I'm going to go for the extra 2 HP, and we're going to then skip to backgrounds, and this is where we're going to get our first random roll of the game, the session, I guess we'll call it, and that is background. And so when soloing, it is important to find places, you might call them anchor points, that you can start to hang a story on. And maybe this is going to be one of them. We will see. So we've got a dwarf, and it's a dwarf sailor. All right, it's a dwarf sailor. I don't love that, but I'm going random. So skipping alignment for the moment, and then we're going to get our starting gear. So basically what we've got is, all I have right now is a dwarf sailor. A pirate, a privateer, or a merchant. The seas are yours. Now, I don't want to do something on the sea for a variety of reasons. So my sailor is going to be a sailor on land. Maybe that's the beginning of a story. It's going to be something I'm going to think about when I figure out exactly what type of adventure we're going to be having here. Perhaps I put this map down just for background, but maybe I don't have any water here on this map. That's like this open seas. We have this like lake thing here, but maybe my character has traveled inland for some reason, and that's going to be the basis of our story. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is, again, sticking to material in SoloDark to try to give it a little bit of a workout and show you how it can go. I'm going to roll on the prompts D100 tables here to get something that will suggest either the story itself, or perhaps the name of an adventure or something of that nature. So let's get we'll get a D100 here, and this is just as you can see on the fly. So we're going to get a verb, and our verb is a 92. This is uphold. Uphold what? And our noun is going to be, 91. Sorry, that rolling was off camera. Uphold success. Well, a sailor is upholding success, so I'm going to say that the sailor has been a successful, we'll call it a pirate, coming back home with he's a dwarven pirate coming back home with his loot and tales of his travels. And maybe we'll go really stereotypical and have him start out in an inn somewhere, telling people about what all his adventures have been, and that NPC that he's telling is going to then perhaps try to enlist him as such a successful adventurer in something that he needs done. So we're going to roll. We only have dungeon names here, but this is going to be the name of the inn. Let's see if we can get something that seems like the name of an inn. I got a 50 there. That's not super helpful. Lord, this is kind of the wrong table for it. And a 40. All right, Lord Desecrated. The Desecrated Inn. We'll call it the Desecrated Inn. And for Lord, what I'm going to say is that Lord is going to be the descriptor of the NPC that is coming to talk to my sailor character, who's throwing back some ale at the inn, and the desecrated inn here in the little town of whatever, and he's regaling everybody with his stories of the mighty seas, and this lord approaches him, some type of the aristocracy approaches him and is going to request aid or help in doing something. And let me give a think about where I'm going to get the more of the details now about what the request is of my character, and while I'm doing that, I'll roll up some stats so we actually get a character that has the ability to do something with the dice that I'm rolling. All right, so I rolled up my character, and in doing that, I realized I made a couple of errors in the first segment. I left them there to show you how this is naturally developing and correcting itself. The first set of values I got, I realized there's an option in the book. If you don't roll, I think it's a 14 or 15 or greater, you can redo. So I decided to redo it. And I ended up with, I also went to a level 1 character, and I also did do an alignment because I forgot that one of the great things about ShadowDark is the alignment, I feel, offers some narrative possibilities. And you can refer to my other ShadowDark video for my discussion about that. But I ended up with Torben, the robber pirate thief, who's a level 1 character, and these are his stats, and these are his things that he's got. You can pause the video if you want to sort of see everything. I haven't made it nice yet, but basically I tried to keep it thematic. He's got leather armor, he's a pirate, he's got a long sword, and not a whole lot else. As a thief, he's got a crowbar, some iron spikes, and rations and a rope, and things that a thief might have. He only has 5 HP, and his AC is 14. The other thing I did as part of my GM prep is I went through the ShadowDark monster section, which is pretty extensive, and I pulled out a D66 table worth of AC value 15 or less monsters that I would potentially want to encounter. I thematically had a little bit of an issue because as I am a pirate, but as I'm on land, I did not go with much of the sea creatures, although I felt like I should have some of them. So I've got a sea hag in there, and there's another pirate. I just put things in there that I thought I would want to encounter, and I just made it into this nice table. So if we have the need for a random monster, I've got it kind of pre-selected in this way. The other thing I realized as I was going through here is that I forgot about when I filmed the first piece of this, is that there are a bunch of relevant tables in here that are going to help me build out the story, adventure generators and such. So we're going to stick with basically what we had, but there's actually a tavern name table in here, so we don't need to use what I came up with rolling on the wrong table. In here we're going to just go to the intended table. So we're going to do this now and just start to flesh out a little bit more of what's going on here, and we're going to stick with the pirate and the lord and all of that, but we will roll on we're going to get a name for our table, a 13 and a 20. So it's the Cloak and Bard. This is where we are. That's the inn, the Cloak and Bard Inn. And it's known for exotic taxidermy collection. Okay. Cloak and Bard Inn, exotic taxidermy. And we can also go to get a name here. My lord is also going to be a dwarf, as am I. So it's going to be Lord Orgo, the dwarf. Lord Orgo, the dwarf. And there is a section here. There's an adventure generator. So I'm going to get some more details on from the adventure generator table. And this is 3d20. So we're going to go green, black, orange, 12, 13, and 4. Imprison the spy in the city sewers. That's very clear. That's a lot better. Imprison the spy in the city sewers. I did want to do something overland, so we'll figure that part out. It does specify that we're in a city, so I can go to the Sandbox generator, I think, to help out with that. And so now I'm going to go outside of ShadowDark to the Sandbox generator, and there is we're in a city, but there's this kind of like village secrets table that I want to roll on. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I find, let's see, we got a 6, and so that is, it's hiding outlaws. The reason that I'm doing this is that structurally, when doing anything solo, it always helps to have 2 to 3 built-in options. And what I mean by that is we're rolling up something explicitly that's supposed to be like our overall quest or adventure or goal, but I want to have at least 1 or 2 other related pieces of information, or you could call them secondary or tertiary pieces of information that I get at the outset that's going to help me narratively as I'm moving through the story, so that if you can eliminate any kind of binary yes-no choice, yes, this is related, no, it's not, oh, maybe it's related to a third thing, that always opens up the story. It always opens up the narrative. So I want to do that at the outset, which is why I rolled on that. And we can also, the other thing I want to do is and here I'm going to go to my own book. I want to get a little more information about the NPC, this lord here, and his relationship to us, or his attitude toward us. So I'm going to roll on the table, an NPC traits table that is in here, because I just want I want to understand what we're starting out with here. So this is a D10 table with some descriptors. And we got a 7, brutal. Okay, he goes out of his way to inflict harm, obstacles, and impediments. So this is somebody who is not going to be kind toward Torben. Perhaps he feels wronged by Torben, or Torben in his pirate adventures had stolen some loot or something that maybe he felt belonged to him, and as payback is now sending Torben, who is definitely a level 1 and not very powerful character, on a journey into the sewers to do his bidding. All right, I think we're in pretty decent shape here for our story. We've got Torben the dwarf. He's relaxing at the Cloak and Bard Inn when he's come back from his latest pirate outing with a whole bunch of loot. And then all of a sudden, out of the shadows appears Lord Orgo, who's like the aristocratic dwarf, and he's mean and brutal, and Torben knows immediately, maybe even like what he wants. And in some way, Torben, who's like a kind of fun-loving guy, has wronged this lord, and it is going to be, we had this prompt, uphold success. And so what this is going to mean in this story is, like, in order for Torben to uphold success, to keep his loot, to continue to live as he wants and enjoy himself in this town or city, he's going to have to do something for Lord Orgo, and ultimately it's going to be to imprison the spy in the city sewers. Now, we did see the village secrets table actually turned up hiding outlaws, so what this is telling me is that the initial thing that we need to do is to find this spy. We'll equate spy with outlaw, who's hidden somewhere in the city, and then once we do that, we would then need to go into the sewers and find a way of imprisoning him. So in a sense, it's like there's two parts to this adventure. We've got the overland-ish part in the city, and we've got the sewer part, which is essentially like a dungeon crawl-ish type of thing in a dungeon until we are able to successfully imprison whoever we apprehend as the spy. So a few points here. I said at the outset I really wanted to do something like overland, and I was thinking maybe there would be even travel. Of course, I could abandon all of the things I'm getting here that suggest the story and just start over or roll again to get that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm happy with the randomness and the flexibility that I have within narrative development to kind of bend this and make it into a story that works for what I want to do. So that's number one. Number two is I mentioned that I had gone through ShadowDark, the bestiary in it, and pulled out just kind of enemies that I might want to encounter in a random way. I did not, when I was doing that, know that perhaps part of this adventure is going to end up in the sewers. So what I could do, I'm not going to do it now for this video, but what I could do is revisit this and make perhaps two tables, one that might be enemies that would be likely to be encountered as I travel through the village. Actually, I probably am going to do this. Enemies that I would likely encounter traveling through the village, and then another table of things I might encounter in a sewer, because basically right now that's where the story is developing itself. I'm not going to do that right now. We're going to move on because I really want to show you how you get into the story. It took about 15 minutes of camera time here to get to our story, and we have a whole bunch of things we can do, but the first thing we want to do is, I think now, get a sense of this city that we're in. So I want to come up with some places that I can possibly go in the city, and I'm going to this outdoor buildings table here. It's a D30 table, and I did it on random.org, and I did it on my phone, so you can't see it, but the numbers that I got were 18, 4, 1, 9, and 23. I thought to take a screenshot at the end. You'll just have to trust me on that. So the options of places in the town is there's a house, there's a barrack, there's an abbey, there is a church, and there is a mine. So those are the places we know we could travel. I could make a decision just randomly, or I could try to go to an oracle saying, you know, is this a likely place for my for the spy to be? But I do know that there's a little bit of a table here to roll on for the abbey. There's some abbey events, so I think we're going to go to well, you know what? Let's actually do this. So I do want to show you how this oracle works. So we're going to go to an oracle, and we're going to just give an even chance here. So we'll be rolling on we'll be rolling a d20 and just sort of checking out. And the question here is, I don't love to do this, but I do want to show you how it works. Is going to the abbey an effective way to start to look for the spy? That's my question. So we're rolling and we got an 18. So what this means is that is a yes, and it is there's no but. So it's a yes. So we are going to go to the abbey, and it's a good chance that we're going to find out something about the spy that we're looking for. So we head off toward the abbey, and when we get there, let's just see if it makes sense to create anything about it or not. Well, we don't need to necessarily give it a name. I think we're gonna walk through. There's a garden when we go in. It's it's a peaceful place here. Maybe it's on the outskirts of town. We've kind of gathered ourselves together and sobered up a little bit, and we're walking through a nice flower garden here, and there's some religious buildings around, and there's a parlor perhaps that we enter into, and we're going to see what is the what's this abbey say famous for? What is this abbey famous for? It is famous for its domain and its landscape. So perhaps the abbey is a very powerful institution in this town, and maybe with the aristocracy and the abbey, the religious leaders, it is like a almost traditional town where part of it is ruled by the religious leaders and part of it is ruled by the aristocracy. And let's find out something about the nature of events that have happened in this abbey, either in the past or still. We got a 3. Oh, there's a demonic corruption that had, sorry for that shadow. There's a demonic corruption that is, let's see, it's happening right now. There's a demonic corruption happening right now. So we are going to be walking in there. Let's ask, does this demonic corruption is our spy, is our outlaw that we are trying to get, are they related to that? Are they connected religiously somehow to the corruption that's going on? And that's a very bad roll. There we go. No, they're not. So that's an unrelated, but it's an odd number. So we have a but. They're not connected, but perhaps we will still garner some benefit from the rulers of the abbey. All right. So a couple of key maintenance points I need to mention. The first is that we're going to be keeping track of every round, and that is basically my interpretation of the group rules, is that every action we take is going to count as a round. So in this particular case, we're in a risky situation, so we need to check every 2 rounds, basically every 2 times that we do something, to see if there's going to be a random encounter. And so we walked through the garden and we walked into the parlor area. So by my count, that's 2 rounds. So we're going to roll the 1d6, and on a 1, we will have a random encounter. And I'm going to keep track of that as we go to make sure that I'm following this way of bringing in the random encounter. So here we are inside, we're in the parlor, we're in the abbey, and what we're going to do now is we are going to sneak around and make an effort to remain unseen and just see what we can see without being detected. As a thief, we get to roll with advantage on any type of stealth check. And the way the check works is there is a difficulty class that is going to be based on one of these examples here. And I will consider that it's going to be hard to be unseen. You roll a d20, you take the modifier for whatever relevant stat it is, add it to that, and you need to meet or exceed that DC. So in this case, we're looking for a 15. However, we get to roll with advantage, and that means rolling 2d20 and taking the better result. We're already working with a +3 on this, so we are rolling 2d20, and whatever, we got to get a 15 or greater with our modifier, so we got a 19 here with the better roll because we rolled with advantage. Had we not been rolling with advantage, we would not be successful because we would just miss it with a 14, even with that great big modifier. So we have successfully snuck through one area of the abbey, and we're going to continue on and find another room. And I think to give me the place where we are, this is a table here in the generator. It's really for dungeons, but I'm going to just roll on it and see, because I want to try to stick to just these few different sources. I think if I wasn't doing that, I probably have some other source book that has actual random rooms for something like an abbey. But we rolled a 5, and we have an armor disintegrating ray. No, an anti-magic room. An anti-magic room. Let's see what that is. Magic doesn't work in this room. So we will walk through another room. We'll just consider that another action. And there's really nothing special about this room. We're still going to continue to double check, not only keeping track of the rounds, but that we are not being seen. So we're going to roll again with advantage. It's the same DC, and we got a 19. Again, pointing out that the advantage is really helping, because if we had just rolled the 8, we would have been detected. So we're continuing to move through here, and haven't really done any investigation. I guess we're just trying to get the lay of the land here, as it were. And we come upon a healing lava pool. We are not injured, but we're going to look around, and it's a healing pool. Looks like lava. It can heal you. We don't really need that, but this is a place where, say, the monks come to relax and restore their health. Maybe the clerics have imbued this area with the special healing powers that it has. And I think now we're going to maybe do check to see, is there something in this room that we want to investigate, or something that, using our, we're not that high on our wisdom, which I think what we're using to look around. Let's see. Detect the hidden. Yeah. So let's just see. We're here to investigate. So we have a -2 modifier on that, and it is going to be hard to find something, but let's just give it a roll and see. We have no advantage here at all, I don't believe. So let's confirm that. No, we don't. But we're going to look around and see it. Can we detect anything here at all? And no, we definitely did a fail on that. And did we attract any attention with that failed roll? Well, there we're going to go to the oracle. So we're in this kind of healing pool room, and you can imagine the red flickering on the stone or tile walls from the heated lava that's there. And we were not very successful in figuring out anything. And did we attract the attention with that roll? No, we can just kind of keep going on. It was an odd number, maybe a little bit of lava, splattered out as we were walking through, and maybe that little bit of lava kind of caught us on the leg, and it is hot and burning, so perhaps it gave us D3 damage as a result of that. So we got 2 damage points off, just for pausing there and looking around. So we're going to move forward and continue to sneak through, and let's do that sneak roll and see. We're still not detected, but I do need to roll to see if there's a random encounter, and nope, we're still good. So we're going to round the corner and continue to sneak along, and we give it a roll here, and actually we are not successful. We've made some noise, and we are going to turn around down the corridor, and at the end of the corridor, we're going to see someone. I did actually make a table of possible NPCs in this abbey. It's a D8 table, so we turn around, we stumble a little bit, maybe because of that kind of lava. We're mad about that. And we turn around and we see a guard at the end of the hall. And there's a guard there, and we can go to, in ShadowDark, we can go to the reaction table here. They, let's check out the guard charisma. And there's no modifier for the guard charisma. So let's see, it's revealing its presence, and we're going to just roll the 2d6 with no modifier to see what how the guard is reacting to us here. That's a 7, and the guard is suspicious. Well, that makes sense. So we're going to we're going to sort of put our hands out and try to approach in a friendly manner. But this is going to be difficult for us to do. So I'm going to see whether we're successful in, that's going to be a hard check. And our charisma is actually, we also have a 0 modifier here. So we're saying to the guard, hey, you know, we're coming to investigate, and we think you have information. I've been sent by Lord Orgo, trying to talk our way through something without any conflict. And are we successful in doing that? Well, it's going to be hard, and we don't have any benefit. We don't have any modifier. So it all gets down to this D20 roll as to how successful we are. Oh, wow. We got a 15. So, all right. So we approach the guard, and we are engaging in conversation with the guard. The guard's still kind of suspicious. I mean, we just got a 15, but the guard is going to take us to the leader of the abbey, to the priest, and we follow the guard. And at this point, we're still taking actions, but I'm not sure they're going to really end up with a random, well, you know what? We are going to do the random encounter roll. It's time to do that again, even though we're with this guard, and we didn't, no random encounter. So the guard is taking us to the leader of the abbey. It's going to be a priest, and we enter in the room, we walk in, we see there is an very regal priest sitting behind a desk who kind of exchanges a nod or a look at the guard, and the guard leaves the room, closes the door, but you can sense that definitely there are guards now. There's 2 guards outside the room. We're not sure if we're a prisoner or what. We turn to the priest, and we start to explain like why we're here and what our mission is and how we think that the abbey can sort of help us. We understand they're dealing with like a demonic situation, but the spy doesn't have anything to do with it. So we're going to ask the Oracle, with all of this information, are we going to, is the priest going to help us, give us information about the spy that we're trying to deal with? I think it's going to be unlikely. So this means we need to roll with disadvantage. So what that means is we'll take 2d20, but we have to take the worst result here. Whoops. We have to take the worst result here to see. So in this case, well, they're both pretty bad, a 3 and a 1. So the answer is no, that this priest wants nothing to do with our problem. And instead, we got, by the way, 2 odds. So that's a but or an additional thing. So instead is saying to us, we need you to help us deal with this demonic situation down in perhaps in the crypts here. The demons have arisen, and we need you to come with us and help us fight them before we're going to give you the information that you want. So the question is, are you going to do that? Or can you do that? Or what happens when you do that? And in this particular case, I think that we don't really have a choice. We can try to fight our way out of here, but there is a guard or guards outside the door, and we could roll, even in odds. If we get even, it's going to be 2. If it's odds, it's going to be 1. So there's 1 guard, just that main guard outside the door. We could choose to fight our way out, but we're dealing here with the priest as well. And the priest is going to, be more powerful than we are and have some magic. So I think we're going to have to go with the guard to help fight the demon. So basically what has happened here is that the original story has gotten totally waylaid or taken over by the developing story. And now we have essentially a party of 2. So we were going to turn this guard into a PC with us and just kind of bring the guard into our party. I think that's clearly what the roles are telling us to do. So let's just take a look at the stats here for the guard. And it's a sentry equipped with sturdy weapons and armor, chainmail shield. We have, this guard's got a spear. Well, that's good because we've got some ranged weaponry here and we've got all the stats. So really where we've gone, despite what I wanted to do, is really into a dungeon sort of crawl, a crypt, perhaps the devils or I put in the random table I made here, I put demons as well as devils because of the demonic possession, but in here there's more than one type of demon. There's kind of a bunch of demons. And I think what I would do next is go here and look at these demons and set up a situation where we're doing basically a dungeon crawl through a crypt with me and the guard, trying to find and subdue a certain number of demons. Once that happened, then going back to the priest, getting the information we need, and then moving on. It seems pretty clear that's the direction that all of the various prompts that I rolled up are sending me, even though that wasn't the idea that I had in mind when I started. And I think that this is a really good place to stop and a good example of how having too much of a predetermined notion of what you want to do when you sit down for solo play can be detrimental, because if you're really truly doing something random, there's only so much you can control. Now, obviously, I could have chosen to abandon any of these roles or do things differently, but I was trying to give like an overall sense of what was happening, and I didn't want to manufacture an encounter when there wasn't one. I will show you, just as an example, had we had a random encounter, I would have rolled on the table here. Let's see, which one did I decide it was? I think there's a temple district area or a temple district table. We're not really at a district, but it's kind of the closest thing. So let's, as an example, just show you. Like I said, this is just showing you how something actually played out. I didn't want to fake it. 15. Had we done that, 3 acolytes accused the PCs of treading on a holy tomb. So that might have given a prompt for an encounter, for some combat. Perhaps after the combat, if we survived the combat with 3 acolytes, maybe the tomb got disturbed during the fighting. We could pry open the tomb. Maybe in there would have been some information we were looking for about this outlaw, this spy that we're supposed to find way back in the original thing that we're doing. But you can see how the story starts to fold in, and you get more different options of what you can do. And really, sorry, I got a little cut off there. Just in conclusion, what I'm trying to say is that you could see how the story is developing in a certain way. There's lots of different places to go with the story from here, and I am not going to do those on camera, but I hope that this gives a good sense of how you can build a story in ShadowDark. And obviously there's so many different ways that this could have gone. Even from the outset, I could have made some determinations that once I rolled up, for example, the pirate, that I was going to base everything around. There is this ocean encounters. There's a lot of random encounter tables here, and there are there's this ocean one I could have gone to here, and perhaps I could have just rolled to start out by rolling like a D100 on that. That would have been an 88. A storm giant fights a losing battle against a megalodon. Well, that could have been something like, we witnessed this on our ship, and the storm giant's body washes up on our ship, and we investigate the carcass and we find something in there, or whatever. Just one example. Again, not going to go back over the reasons why I think ShadowDark's so useful for solo, because I do have a whole video on that. You can see that link down below. But I wanted to just give you an example of how you can step into this system without a whole lot of other apparatus. I did use a little bit from the Sandbox generator, and I think like a table or so from my own GM guide, but these things are not essential. And there is, of course, the ShadowDark rules themselves, which really just have the oracle, and there's like the dungeon names and the prompts here. But these are also things not essential that you can get in other types of supplemental material. So that is a look into ShadowDark, my solo session. And what's going to happen next when I play off camera is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to develop that guard as an actual NPC. I'm going to give the guard a backstory. And to do that, I'm going to go to the backgrounds here. And then from there, I'm going to maybe see, is there any relationship between the pirate and the guard? Probably not, I guess, actually. They're just randomly encountering each other. But I want to give the guard a backstory. And now I have a party of 2. And maybe I would ask the oracle, do we need a party of 3 to go down into the crypts to fight these things? Maybe that's what this story is, just developing, building a party. Usually when I play solo, I go with 1, 2, or 3 characters maximum, unless I'm doing something like, 4 Against Darkness, where it's built into the rule set. But where something more free form, I'm going with 1, 2, or 3 at the most, because it's just hard for me to kind of manage all of that. I do prefer to have the possibility to have some type of relationship between the 2 characters, so that it gives me some story to hang on. And especially if the characters have different backgrounds, building that in can be useful. So for example, if we said this is the guard now we're looking at here. The guard was an urchin growing up in the merciless streets of a large city. So doesn't mean anything at the moment, but perhaps that would come into play, because ultimately, remember, our goal has to do with finding something in the sewers. Maybe this guard could help us. Maybe if we get that far when we're traveling through the sewers, it's going to give us an automatic advantage on a lot of the rolls, because the guard grew up in this city as an urchin and perhaps spent a lot of time traveling those sewers, or knows how to fight the rats, things of that nature. That's an example of how I would take a roll on something like the background table and turn the answer into something narrative, and then turn that narrative, or represent that narrative, with some type of numerical stat. Because as I have said in my book and probably on the channel, one of the main things to remember about solo play is that stats are not story and numbers are not narrative, meaning just that you are going to find yourself without a lot of places to go from the story point of view if you're just focusing on the numbers, but that the numbers can link to or be representative of something that is a story, and that can then further your narrative and guide the type of interactions that you have.